Hey there, this is Andrew, and I'm going to talk to you really briefly about what I'm bringing to NKFL Season 23 Diamond Division. So, if you don't know about NKFL, NKFL is the Nordic Keyforge League. It is run by Sisox, I might be saying the name wrong, who is from, I think from Sweden. Sorry if I'm getting it wrong. Um, but he's been running this league for a couple years now that is called the Nordic Keyforge League. And there's a couple really interesting things about the Nordic Keyforge League. If you haven't played in it, I really highly recommend looking into signing up for the next season. We're just about to start season 23. A season usually lasts around 2 months, so I would expect sometime in April, in May, to have season 24 coming around. But two things make NKFL very interesting. The first is that it uses a format called Nordic Hexad. Hexad, uh, as opposed to Triad, means you're bringing 6 decks to a match. And that's a lot of decks. 6 decks is a lot of decks. But it's a lot of fun too. And the way that it works is that you get to look at your opponent's 6 decks and you get to choose one of their decks to ban initially. They're going to do the same to you. Then you're going to choose one of your decks that they can't ban because you're going to get a second ban. So first you ban one of theirs, then you safe one of your decks. Then you ban another one of their decks. And that'll leave you each with 4 decks with which you're going to play 3 games. And unlike other match formats, you're actually going to play all 3 games even if the same player wins the first 2 games. And that's because match scoring is not a simple binary. There's you could if you win all 3 games, 3 keys to 0, that's a much stronger win than if you win 2 games out of the 3, and those are 3 keys to 2. So you have a much bigger range of strength of win that factors into your score in the league. So with those 4 decks that you have left, you're going to select one. Your opponent secretly selects one as well. You play a game with those decks. You record the score. And then neither of those decks can be played again during that match. You pick one of your 3 remaining decks for the second match. And then for your third match, you're going to pick one of your 2 remaining decks. And so you'll have 1 deck left that you didn't play along with the 2 that were banned. So you're only going to play 3 out of the 6 decks every match, but it makes for a really interesting format. And the second thing that's interesting about the NKFL is that it runs using promotion and relegation. So every league, you are placed in a division. The typical division size is 8 players. And over the course of 7 weeks, usually a little longer, there's usually some cushion, you're going to play 7 matches, one against each other person in your division. And then the scores are going to count overall. So at the end of the league, this is where it matters if you've got 3 3-0 wins versus 2 wins that were 3 keys to 2 or something like that, because the number of direct wins factors into your score. More wins is better. In addition, if you need a tiebreaker, the difference in keys between you and your opponents comes into play. So so at the end of the season, you have those 8 players in a division ranked 1 through 8, and typically the top 2 are going to get promoted to the next division, and the bottom 2 are going to get relegated to the next lower division, and the middle band will kind of stay in. Usually there's some play in to see who gets shifted around a little bit. But yeah, typically it's those top two go up, the bottom two go down, the middle four roughly stay. And it's kind of a pyramid. So this league, last season I was in the gold division. There were two gold divisions, alpha and beta, and I won my division, and so I made it up to the diamond division, which is the top division currently. And so this season I get to play in that top diamond division against 7 other really great players. Now I'll say there are great players in all the divisions because there are great players who are just joining NKFL for the first time this season, and there are great players who go through a slump, have an off season. There are great players who don't have great decks. So there's great players all throughout. I don't want to make it sound like anybody's not a worthy opponent. I've really enjoyed every single match I've played in NKFL. Okay, so with that said, I wanted to give an overview of what decks I am bringing to the NKFL this season to the Diamond Division, and what the thinking is behind it, because then I want to actually record and upload all 7 matches for fun, and I'll talk through my opponent's decks, but I figured one video to talk through my decks makes sense. So here we go. Here I'll start. I actually have 8 decks with this tag, with this NKFL tag on my DOK. That's how I do it. But 2 are GR. This league, the rule is you can't bring more than 2 GR decks, 2 Grim Reminders decks. I brought 0 because it just hasn't clicked for me. I love Grim Reminders; it's so fun, but it just hasn't clicked for me in terms of high level play. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe I'm just dumb, but it hasn't worked for me. So I'm bringing 3 Woe decks, and here we go. So the first deck I'm bringing is Nick L. Maniafeld the Brave. This one's 93 SAS. It has a really cool. I'll start with the Unfathomable is really good. Abyssal Sight, Illusions of Grandeur, Befuddle, Dragnet. Those are all just really good cards. Maelstrom and Frigorific Rod are just okay. Bubbles is good. Bryo's Arc is amazing. Kamalani is pretty good if you have a good token, which this does. It has Grumpus. Sybil Waymare is real good. Turns out to be a really good card. And Timothy the Damned wins games. So that's almost the only Amber Control in this deck. It actually is really the only Amber Control in this deck. But it is very effective Amber Control. The deck is pretty classic Woe, able to just race like crazy. And then if you can just tempo up ahead of your opponent for a turn with Timothy, then that's often enough to win. So really fun deck. Oh, and then in Mars, some Artifact Control with Destroy Them All, 3 Scoop Ups, 2 Memrox the Red, and an Ironics Rebel. I have had a turn where I had like 4 cards in Archives and managed to play 2 Memrox and Ironics Rebel. That was insane. And then in the Brobnar, Fresh Marks, a couple of those, Brick Nasty, 2 Shock Herders, and then these Grumpuses are great. And with Harmala Tune, the Grumpuses come back to your hand when they die, and so you can just do some cool combos that way. It's really fun. Okay, so that's a great deck. It almost always gets banned, so I'll be interested to see if that continues this season. Even in the Team Keyforge League run by the Team Weekend folks, this is in my triad and it just keeps getting banned. So I don't get to play this deck in any format where people ban, but I love it. It's a great deck. Okay, next is Pacifica Kirch's Hitman. By the way, both of these decks are decks that I opened. And this one's crazy. This is my most recent. This is the newest of my 6 decks that are in my Hexad. It's a 92 SAS Winds of Exchange deck. It has Prospector as the token, which is a 1 power human with destroy, draw a card, and it has some cool ways to generate a lot of tokens. Let's start with that. 2 copies of Tyarhi Esquire. So if you have both those out and destroy your board, for every non-token creature, you make 2 token creatures. Mass Buyout provides a way to wipe the board that generates a lot of amber in the process. And I've had turns where I've played 2 mass buyouts, one to generate a bunch of amber and make a bunch of prospectors, and then the second one to blow up the prospectors, make even more amber, and draw a bunch of cards. It's totally insane. And then has some fun capture with city-state interest, which can turn all that token generation into a great way to control amber. Faust is good. 2 Pax Sarianas is insane amber generation, and then just does weird things to the board because everything is worded. Epic Poems are very good here. Enlist Numery is an interesting one, and then again, a really good Unfathomable. No Bryozark here, but it has an Abyssal Sight, Illusions, Befuddle, and then Whirlpool, which is just an insane card with capture going on, and Covetous Hema, Fathom Reaver to reduce their hand size, and then 2 Timothys here. So again, if I can just tempo it out, then I'm often able to land a win with this thing. So very weird, fun deck. To Mass Mutation, Cadwin, Barony Researcher is one I opened in a store sealed event. It's a Mass Mutation deck. 2 Mark of Dis, Shadow of Dis, Infernus, Screaming Cave, which is one of my favorite cards, does really good work here. And then a fun, very archivy logos with autoencoder, some Lethos, Novu Dynamo, and then the Untamed is probably the least good out of the houses, even though it's higher stats than the Dis. But it has a lot of board control. So 2 Lost in the Woods, 2 Savage Clashes, sometimes Song of the Wild and Ghost Hawk hit. Commune can be interesting, and then Fangtooth Cavern and Keyfrog. So that's able to control the board really effectively, and usually there's just no creatures on the board when I'm playing this deck on either side really, and then archive a bunch and get the win. So and oftentimes ending with a Keyfrog, which is really fun. So that's a very fun also tempo deck. I guess this is the only deck in the mix here that I did not personally open. Magisterial Warthog Benedict. It's a Coda deck. It's 88 SAS. It has 2 Too Much to Protects and an Interdimensional Graft, so lots of scaling amber control. Plenty of other steel with Urchins, Dodger, Bait and Switch. Lights Out is a really good control card. We have Effervescent Principle, a Mother, some Doc Booktons. Strange Gizmo is an interesting and weird board control card. Key to Dis is great. We've got a Lash, Control the Weak, 2 Ember Imps. So strong like control, steel, tempo package. I really love it. And then this MM deck, Iapo Changeling of the Vorpal Cliff, I also opened. So it has a Legacy Poltergeist, which is really fun. Mark of Dis, Mindfire. I've won a lot of games off of just like very lucky Mindfire hits. And then some decent board control options. And then it's very often able to land Zenzi and Daughter to be drawing 9 every turn, which is crazy. Entropic Swirl is an amazing card. And then Rad Penny just keeps coming back. We've got Borrow for some artifact control. And it has pretty decent steel. So yeah, very strong deck here. That kind of, I think Iapo, there's not anything that it auto loses against, which is really fun. Makes it a pretty strong all-around deck. And then the last one here that I'm bringing is Debethencourt. I just call it Beth, but Debethencourt, the Wildly Unselfish. So this is another Winds of Exchange deck. And I really owe a big thank you to my Ancient Bear Republic teammate Zoc, who pointed this deck out to me because I was trying to, last season, I was trying to figure out my 6th slot, and he asked why I wasn't using this because he thought it looked really good. And I said, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. But I went ahead and tried it, and it it's amazing. Almost never gets banned and almost never loses. So strong amber control with cards like two Rant and Rives, Martyr of the Vault rather, um, uh, Lightbringer Outpost. So it's often able to capture until you can punish and drain that amber, and then two Brick Nasties with a Berserker just can create insane amber generation. Uh, it's I've had opponents leave me with a board of like 6 Brobnar creatures, and they don't play any creatures because I could make more amber if they played creatures, um, which is kind of gross. And strong token generation with Scout Chief, Teamworks, and then good board control too with like Quintrino Warp. The Brobnar itself just controls the board really strongly. So yeah, this is just a great deck. Now, these are the 2 Grim Reminders decks I thought about bringing. Um, Mueller of Burpond Clonehab is a Witch Queen deck, which is funny because I this makes me think of the Witch of Blackbird Pond, um, which I never read. I'm I'm just a flunky, but yeah, strong deck. Brick Nasty, 2 Shock Herders. Final Refrain is really good. But yeah, then Witch Queen, just a great deck. And then Gregariously Unruly Alyssa is a Beanstalk deck with a decent Mars and then a pretty decent Star Alliance as well. But it's really Beanstalk is the key to it. Um, Neither of these is really the super degenerate style of GR that I know some people are going to bring, but they're good decks. They're good. I just feel like I understand and have a better chance with these other ones. Um, Not over the sass. It's just I think I still haven't really mentally cracked how to stop worrying and love the Grim Reminders. So I love this. I actually do love it. I love the play style. I just don't feel like it quite hits the competitive note that I'm looking for. So anyway, okay, so that's my stable. Nick, Pacifica, Cadwin, Warthog, Iapo, and Beth. Um, and we'll see. It's really an amazing group of competitors that I get to play against in this season of NKFL. And I if I go if I go 0 and 21, uh, I will not feel too bad. Um, and if I win more than I lose, I will just be thrilled. So anyway, I'm really excited about it. My first matchup is going to be against Gorlami, who is from my hometown. We live in the same city and play locally, so that's kind of funny. Um, Thought about trying to get together and play locally, but it's better to I can record it better on the computer. Plus, we have store champs coming up this weekend, and I'll have some people in some passengers in my car that I don't want to have make them sit around and wait for me to play Hexad in person. It would be cool though. Whew. Okay, so that. Hope you enjoyed that. Maybe this will inspire you to join the NKFL next season. Highly recommend, and maybe this will also inspire you to look at some of your decks a little differently. I know I do have stuff in the high SAS range here, but uh, almost everybody has an 82, and this really is about finding. This was with the help of a friend, finding one that performed better than I would have expected. So anyway, good stuff. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed and that you'll get out there and forge some keys.